Hello there. How's everybody doing this evening? Thought I'd schedule it for a change just to be different and hope everybody's doing good. Let some people roll in here. It's Tuesday in Texas. I don't know where it is, what day it is where you are, but it's Tuesday in Texas. Southern Indiana. Hey, I grew up in Indiana. My wife in Southern Indiana. She grew up in Sullivan, which is south of Terre Haute. I grew up in Northern Indiana. Hey, Nick, how you doing? The X File. I don't know what part of Indiana you're in, but the old joke, "Who's your daddy?" People in Indiana get that one. Not sure anybody else does. So it's cooled off a little here in Texas. It was just barely 90 today, so that's a cooling trend. Yes, it's all relative, right? I think it's going to be a trend in Florida known as wetness and windness. Huh? Hi, Louisiana. You're in the South too. So we got a couple of nicks. Yeah, the nights are getting a little cooler. Get out for a little bit of a walk now. Humidity is not quite as bad, so that's a good thing. So good. Glad to have you guys with me. Wait for a few more to join. We're gonna kind of go through a few albums that I've kind of set aside as ones that I think are uh, great sounding vinyl. Uh, Many of which are used ones that you can get for a fairly decent price. A few you know, a few you're going to not know, and just makes it a little bit interesting. Nobody has all the answers on these things, and I think that's the fun part. You learn something, you find something new. That's low 60s in Maryland. Oh yeah, okay, Maryland. Thanks, yeah, Nick. It's that's good to see that it's finally getting back to the first day back in the restaurant, just not open yet. Oh, okay. So, are we? I guess pretty much. I heard. I guess this weekend coming up. I guess the first is when the restrictions lift for Canada, because I was looking at traveling to Canada, and I guess they still had pretty harsh restrictions for entrance into Canada. But I guess this weekend that's going to lift, so that's good. I can start looking at travel up there for some work considerations, and yeah, might even look at some vinyl while I'm up there. You never know. They have some great. Let's see if I can find a few more of those audiophile series A&M records. I've gotten most of them, but not all of them. Always looking for those because they're a great value, kind of like the MoFis of the North, half speed master on JVC, super what they called super vinyl of the day, or virgin vinyl of the 80s, and half speed, many of them done by Stan Ricker, who did all the early MFSL or Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab records as well. So that's great. How many Nicks do we have in this group? My goodness. Wow. Anyway, so the survey for the community had the top item being, great sounding vinyl that's not going to break the bank, easy on the wallet, whatever term I might have used. Trying to find some things that really sound great. We've all been a little bit inundated lately with all the high end audio end of it with the MoFi stuff, and now the Steely Dan announcement with Analog Productions. And you can see some of the ones that surround me are Analog Productions, and that's great. I mean, there's certain titles that if you really like something and want the very best of it, then sometimes you go for the gusto. but just two of you guys. Okay, that makes it easy. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, we've all got budgets for the most part, and we all are looking for what's going to give us the best value for the dollar. And sometimes that gets down to a lot of different things, like the pressing, the plant, the mastering engineer is a big issue. If you go into Discogs on a computer platform, meaning a PC or a Mac, and you go into Discogs and you look up a mastering engineer like Bernie Grundman or Kevin Gray or Ryan K. Smith or Bob Ludwig or Ted Jensen or Doug Sachs, you will get a portfolio of the records that they have been titled as mastering. Now, it's not comprehensive because not all of the records have credits in there that show who mastered the record or cut the lacquer. So beware that, it's not necessarily a comprehensive list in the sense that it has everything, but it does give you a good sampling of the ones that they did. And then you can look at the IDs in there under Discogs for that record and look for what type of dead wax etchings you're looking for. Early on, Bernie Grundman, for example, did not put his initials on anything. So that's a little, it's not like you're going to find anything jumping out at you to say it's a BG, which the later offerings he has done, he started to etch those. But a guy like Robert Ludwig, Bob Ludwig has that RL all in the stuff he does. So I think dozen unopened boxes of vinyl. That's a interesting topic, is unopened vinyl, because you can buy, sometimes you'll see on auctions vinyl sealed. The upside of that is it hasn't been played. The downside of that is, what's the condition? What's the storage? Is it warped? Is it was it bound so tightly or stored so tightly that maybe it has some of the paper impressed into the grooves? There's if I'm going to sell something sealed, I always warn a buyer about that. I'd rather, I can sell it sealed and then open it to confirm the quality of it at that point. But sealed does have its risks, I guess I would say. But that being the case, let's look at a few items. So what I did is I pulled a few newer releases that I think are really outstanding sounding. So I'd like to just show you a few of these. And if I've mentioned these before on my channel, not necessarily in a video, but on this live, I apologize. But if I'm repeating myself, it's only because I'm really firm about what I think about this. So this is Chris Isaak, okay, and it's called Heart Shaped World, and it's what they call an RSD Essential, Record Store Day Essential. It's white vinyl. So I have heard of Chris Isaak before, and now that I've listened to him more, I recognize his voice a lot more. And he had a song called Wicked Game. If you look it up or play it on Spotify, you'll probably recognize it. Kind of an eerie sound. So Chris Isaak kind of has a voice a little bit like Roy Orbison. It's kind of all over the map, can go very low, can go very high, very unique kind of voice. But the thing here for $26.98 new, the quality of this in terms of the recording and the mastering by Kevin Gray is just outstanding. This is one of those records that you definitely could use to demo a system and that kind of thing. So I would tell you that I bought this because of all of the lauding I heard about the pressing and the mix and the mastering, sorry, of this, and how good it sounded, and I was not disappointed. And his music's pretty decent. It's not exactly a genre that I would automatically gravitate to, but I'm glad that I have it now, because when I listen to it, it really does sound nice, and he has a very, like I said, Orbison-like voice to me, and I really appreciate that. I think he's, yeah, Nick. I know another guy, I know Kevin Baker. He saw him here recently. And I would just say that, this guy's unique and probably well, um, uh, underknown. He's not known as well as I think he could or should be given his talent. So, again, great pressing. It's new. These are out there in the wild. Like I said, I paid about $27 plus tax for it. It's really a great record, great sounding record for the money. First few, I'm going to show you our new ones, and then we'll go to used vinyl. So this is War's Greatest Hits. This was part of, I believe, a Record Store Day release, a limited edition, 5,500 on gold vinyl. This was Kevin Gray did this one, mastering as well. And if you like War at all, and those are the songs that are on there. If you like War at all, this is the one to have. Really dynamic recording. I pulled out a couple of older ones that I had of theirs, OGs, and they really sounded great. I hadn't recalled their presses from a sound standpoint, but they were well recorded initially. But this really does justice and then some to those songs. So again, about a $29 album, brand new. I don't know how many of these are still out there though. I actually saw two of them and grabbed them both because I hadn't seen it anywhere. And then another one that has come out is Superfly soundtrack from Run Out Groove. Run Out Groove, if you didn't know, is it's a division of Rhino, which is a division of WEA, Warner Electro Atlantic, and they do specialty presses. And so this is a double anniversary edition, all analog, 2-album edition. And this thing sounds unbelievable. Really, really. If even if you only know the hits that are on here, there are other great songs on here as well, beyond the songs that you normally know, like Freddie's Dead and Superfly, which were kind of the two 45s. This goes for want to say around 40, 35 to 40, and it's numbered. Mine's 5247, so it's numbered, limited edition. Another great sounding record. Okay, so those are three new ones that I pulled. Now I'm going to pull some that I got out of my collection, and I went like A through G or H. I think I didn't get much further than that. But now, again, these are ones that are great sounding that you can get at, I think, a fairly reasonable price in terms of, we're talking, $8 to $15, let's say $5 to $15. Let me look at a few of these notes real quick. Got lucky and found a sealed copy of the Tube Mastered Best of War RSD. Okay, so Novus Nick, if there's anything, if that's identified differently on the cover or anything like that, let me know. If there's anything on that one, because that one maybe is not obviously the same one I have, may have been even more limited. Okay, Nick. Yeah, they do fantastic pressings. RG does, yeah, Run Out Groove. I've got all the Morphine records they've done. I've got the Monkees ones. The Monkees are just fabulous. Isn't yeah, Cahaba Tunes. I show that this one was done by him too, but it doesn't imply whether it was tube or not tube. And it says Coherent. So that's his studio. So that's why I'm asking if you guys have any more detail, because there wasn't anything that I could see. Maybe there's something more. I was just looking up who did the mastering, not necessarily any of the notes on that one. So maybe that's one I need to look into even further. But I can tell you that one sounds great. That one sounds great. I think everything he does now at Coherent is through that tube base. So I don't know. I don't want to say it's not a bigger deal, but my point is, I think that's what he has when he masters in his studio. So this is Ambrosia's first album. So Ambrosia had basically two lives. They had a prog band Life, which is what this is, and then they had like a more of a soft rock, like that they had later on, and those were different eras, not very long apart at all. But this was on 20th Century Fox. They signed with 20th Century Fox about the same time that the Alan Parsons Project did, when the Alan Parsons did their first Tales and Imagination of Edgar Allan Poe. And this is actually engineered and produced by in fact, Alan Parsons. And this is one of the best sounding prog albums I've ever heard. And better than, I mean, from a engineering standpoint, even better than some of the Yes albums. And it has a song on here that I think was a hit called "Holding On to Yesterday." Let's see where that's at. Oh, I've got too many sleeves here to read through. Yeah, "Holding On to Yesterday." So if you can find this one in the bargain bin, this is a fabulous sounding album that Alan Parsons did. Um, and again, this was before their soft rock kind of career. All right. So that one, let me go back. Okay, get to the used ones. Here we go. All right. Speak of the Devil, Alan Parsons Project. This is called Vulture Culture. And this is one that you'll see fairly cheap. It's one of his less known albums. Not as sold as many units or as popular as Eye in the Sky or I, Robot. But this is really a great recording. It sounds really great. The songs are really strong, actually. They have more of about 5 of these could easily have been single hits themselves. So this is Alan Parsons on Arista called Vulture Culture, a really great sounding album and an enjoyable one as well from the perspective of music. Okay, so Vulture Culture. I mean, I could pull out Eye in the Sky and say it's a fabulously recorded album, and that's true. But to me, really it jumps out a lot more when you get into the mobile fidelity version, the 2x45, which is like $60. So we're starting to get out of that price range there. The Cars' first album, George Marino mastered, really, really good recording. So if you can see this one, you certainly will see quite a bit around. Now, it might be going for a little more, 18 or $20 these days. I don't know. Things, change in this market quite a bit. But this is a very well done album, very well mastered. And I've got several different presses of it, and they all sound pretty much equal. So, which is good in that sense. So that's a great album to have from a sound and sonic standpoint. This one's a bit of a sleeper album, I guess, in a sense that, and that is Carly Simon's Coming Around Again. This was kind of her incarnation after she was with Warner Electro Atlantic and had her big No Secrets hit and everything. And then she sold almost as many of these as No Secrets. It was like within 60,000 units, I believe. It was 1.6 million versus 1.7, I think. So this sold really well, and it's very well done. Ted Jensen was the mastering engineer for this, and Frank Filippetti was the actual sound engineer. And this album is just, it's got good songs, and it really does sound good. It really has a great sonics to it, and her voice really shines on this album without buying, a higher end version, which there really isn't one of that. Actually, I'm trying to get Speaker's Corner to consider releasing it. All right, here's another one. This was George Marino's mastering as well, and Umberto Gatica was the engineer, and just really a great set of mixes on here, and a really good album generally, but really a great sounding one as well. So I think This album is one that you definitely see for low dollars, single digit dollars, but it's just a good sounding and well recorded album. If you don't like Chicago, probably don't get it. I get that. That's not a problem. If you hate Peter Cetera, you definitely don't want to get it. This was the last album Peter Cetera was on with the group. But it's just really a well done album. And there actually is a track from this session that didn't make this album that's on We Are the World that Chicago put on there as well. If you happen to have We Are the World, the 11th song that was on that album was actually put on We Are the World. You see, I was in alphabetical a little bit here. I may have talked about this one before, but I can't help but say it. And that is Chicago 2. Okay. But the Steve Wilson remix. If you can find this now, this isn't going to be a bargain bin album. This is going to be one that, I think new went for probably $31, $32. It's a double album. But I mean, if you like Chicago 2, early stuff, this is the only way to hear it. That the original presses of it are not worth a darn, frankly. Really muddy, and you realize how muddy they are when you listen to this. So if you can find the Steve Wilson remix of that, it's really worth it. This isn't always my favorite kind of music, but once in a while I needed something to uplift me. So Chuck Mangione Feels So Good on A&M. A lot of their records, they had the virgin vinyl, the translucent vinyl that were pressed, and they really sound great. And this is a very dynamic album. One that I would put in the same class with this would be Herb Alpert's Rise, which came out not too far off the time of this one as well. You'll see a lot of A&M records that had this translucent vinyl that was used, which really helped the quietness of it. And again, a lot of Grundman work on A&M. He spent a lot of time at A&M mastering. So although he never etched at the time into the grooves, his work is all over, especially like the Carpenters and that type of thing. So here's one that breaks the mold a bit in the sense that it's digital, but it's kind of like the Queex vinyl. They never branded it as such, but it's very similar to it. I don't know what the exact difference of brand is in the branding name versus the use of it. It was never stamped on the outside with a sticker that said Queex, but it's very similar to it in the feel and in the results you get from it. So I put them in the same category actually. So this is Dave Grusin, who's a jazzish kind of guy, pop jazz kind of guy, and this was digital. It's on GRP records, and this is just a really dynamic recording. A lot of variation in. Phoebe Snow does a vocal. There's a lot of instrumentals. The instrumental for Saint Elsewhere, which was a TV show, is on here, which is really a very dynamic instrumental, well recorded. If you can find this one, it's usually $15 or less, but it really does put your system through its paces. So this is really one that you got a DBX Virgin vinyl of that. So okay, yeah, that's on my want list. I've got a lot of DBXs, but that's one that I want. That one. Thanks for that, Jerry. Yeah, I've got a DBX as well, and those are amazing. What they do by holding by putting compression in the grooves and then releasing it through the actual expander through the DBX. Hello, Alex Dickey. I'm back. Alex made a comment this morning. Is, hey, Bianco have his thing. I fell asleep last night. Well, I didn't. So everybody knows this one. Okay, Cheap Shot, Easy Shot, Rim Shot, Donald Fagen, The Night Fly. But you almost can't help but talk about great sounding records that don't break the bank and talk about this. So this is one of my European versions. I paid $14 for it in Sweden. But this is there's a mobile fidelity of it. I've got it. There's actually the one step, which I don't have, unfortunately, and I'm certainly not going to pay what they want for it now. But this is a great sounding album. The Steely Dan guys are very purist, but this is one that is a system tester. It is a way to show off your system. It's really done well, and you can find these usually for under $20 pretty easily. Get a good copy, of course, but that's pretty much I think what you can find them for. Here's another A&M, Sergio Mendes Confetti. Sergio Mendes did a lot of instrumental type things, and then he had some vocalists join in for various songs and put them on the map, kind of a situation where he did that. And this has the big hit on this was Alibis, which was a top 10 song. He's got a couple other great songs on here, like Real Life, Let's Give a Little More This Time. These are great, vocals by people like James Ingram, and that got started through these kind of arrangements. So this is another one of those A&M clear vinyl, translucent, pure virgin vinyl releases as well. Another, under $10 bargain bin kind of album. Bedtime with Bianco is a perfect way to go to sleep. Is that what she said? No, end the day. Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to tell me you put me to sleep. I know. It's okay. Okay. Here's one that probably isn't on anybody's radar pretty much, unless you've seen my video of best albums to test a system with that I did early on when I had my channel of some examples of records. That Dave Grusin was on that list of albums to use to test out equipment. This is another one. Paul Carrack, whatever you want to pronounce it. This is called One Good Reason. Okay, this not a lot of these records are out there. There were a lot of CDs of this. This had the hit that everybody probably has heard called Don't Shed a Tear. But it has a lot of other great tunes as well. And it is a very well recorded album. And there's a song on here, which I will tell you. I just want to get the title correct here. So again, Don't Shed a Tear was a big hit off of here. Give Me a Chance. So it's a ballad. Give Me a Chance is a ballad. And it has some bass that just goes very, very low. And it has some quiet passages and loud passages, and just is a very dynamic type song that really gives you a great test of the range of a system, bottom end to top end and mid range with his voice. So this is, I'm not going to say this one's easy to find, but I don't think it's expensive once you find it, maybe $15, but this is really a sleeper album in terms of the songs and in terms of the quality. So if you happen to see this one and you see a decent version, pick it up. Yeah. Jerry, thanks. Carrack is such an underrated songwriter and singer. I think they said that he had the golden voice, and that if he was paid for what his voice really was, he'd be a billionaire and could get out of the business. So thanks. Hello, Evan. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming on board. So Paul Carrack, One Good Reason. I use it. When I bought my tube amp here about a month ago, I used it to demo it, and I heard some depth and some sheen to that song that I'd never heard before through that tube amp. So if you like Supertramp, then you pretty much have to have this Roger Hodgson album. He was one of the members of Supertramp, called In the Eye of the Storm. This is not about hurricanes going to Florida. It's just coincidental. But In the Eye of the Storm, this is A&M, another virgin vinyl release, another great pressing. And these songs will remind you of Supertramp. I mean, very much. And really well written songs. Songs mean something, which sometimes is hard to find. And this is, for a Supertramp fan, I think this is a must have actually. So I would say, and it is a great recording. Are there any plants I avoid? Well, I I will tell you that I try to avoid GZ out of Czech Republic. You can't sometimes with newer stuff, but um, that's one. If it says Czech Republic and it's pressed there or made there, I'm a little cautionary about that one right now. Um, some in the older plants, it kind of depends on the timing. Honestly, it's not always that. My most recent Croc vinyl purchase was the collected album. Yeah, I that is is that the I'm assuming that's the MOV version of that, Jerry, that you're talking about, the most recent Carrick being the collected. That's the collected series. So are there any plants I avoid? I have two purchases last week that were from Jacksonville plant, and I won't be a repeat offender. Looks like Saturday night plays like Monday morning. Yeah. Yeah. Jacksonville, definitely capital. I'm assuming you mean capital at Jacksonville. They definitely had some time frames where they had issues. No doubt about that. I'd be curious what years those pressings were from just to gauge that a bit. So if you can share that with me, maybe that'll help. Oops. Okay, see where I left off. Trying to do this by feel. I put a piece of cardboard between as a divider in there. Did that, did that, did that, did that. Okay, there's Ambrose. Got to be after that one. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, here's a weird one. Frankie and the Knockouts. Okay. This is a great sounding album. It was really surprising to me. It's on the Millennium label, and they had a couple of hits. Sweetheart, I think, was one. You're My Girl was the other one. This was a really good sounding album. Really surprisingly. So if you find this is like a $5 or $6 album, if you find this, like I said, it's a good sounding album. If you know those tunes, those are good tunes, and the others aren't really bad either. They're just not ones that made it to the 45 deck, but this is a good sounding album. And sometimes I just like something different occasionally that has good sonics to it. And this is one of them. A little bit of a kind of a sleeper. Sometimes that happens. Okay, one that everybody probably knows, Heart, Dreamboat Annie. The early Mushroom releases of this are the best. This one is one out of Canada. It's the Starline series. I have it only because I collect Dreamboat Annies. I've got some Mushrooms. I've got a DBX, Jerry. I've got a DBX of this. I don't know if you've ever heard it off Nautilus recordings. Fabulous. But you can pick these up pretty inexpensively, and just some great sonics. Magic Man, Crazy on You, just really good, impactful kind of rock on your stereo. And these are plentiful out there pretty much. Really good sounding album though. But I would look for the Mushroom label. That's really the one that probably has the best sonics and were the earlier pressings. That one there is, like I said, just for collecting purposes. Okay, great sounding. Thanks, audio guy. So here's Howard Jones, his first album, Humans Live. And yes, that's a Howard Jones signature. Ta-da! I call him Hojo because his friends say they can call him Hojo. So this is a great pressing, great album, Humans Live. Well recorded, really one of those unsung albums. He got popular after this, with Life in One Day and some of his other tunes that he had, but this is where he got started. And this is This is just really well recorded. It's really well written, and it's a deep thinker kind of record. But it really sounds fabulous. And this is one again under $10. Typically, you can find that. So here we go. I feel like I'm trying to pick a winner out of a box and not looking or something like that. You've been on a mission. Hang on one second. The Heart 2 LP Greatest Hits album sounds really nice too. Okay, Jerry. Yeah, I don't have that one, but that's good to hear. Alex, I've been on a mission to get all the original U.S. pressings of Bob Marley Island catalog. Some are still pretty affordable. Yeah, all the original U.S. pressings. Okay, are all these U.S. pressings on Island? I guess they are. I know that when it came to people like Cat Stevens, they were on Island in UK, but then an A&M picked them up here. So I'm not big into Bob Marley, so I'm guilty as charged, not knowing for sure. But good luck with that search, Alex. Definitely. And if there's anything that you're looking for, let me know. Send me an email, and if I see it, I'll get in touch with you and let you know. Most were cut at Sterling, UK has same plates. Okay. Yeah, if they're cut at Sterling, they're going to be good. Joe Jackson, Night and Day. The original presses of this on A&M are very good. Again, a lot of them are, in fact, the virgin vinyl. These have been redone by Intervention, and they're great. They're quieter than the originals, but the originals sound great for the money. So Joe Jackson, Night and Day, this is a great pressing as well. Did I like the Nautilus Heart album or preferred the Mushroom pressing? Jason asks. You mean the non-DBX, I would say. I found, it's funny, the Nautilus had a little more semblance than the original pressing, but it had a little more bottom end. So it's always one of those, gee, if I could have a little more of this and less of that, the blend of the two, I'd probably, kind of thing. So I'll listen. Either of them sound good to me, but having the DBX version, that's the one I usually pull. That's the one I usually play, honestly, because it's just so dynamic with the expansion. Okay, weird album of the night. Okay, I'm guilty. All right, everybody has a guilty pleasure, but this is a great sounding album for its day. This is Lesley Gore, her first album. It's My Party. Now, in case you didn't know, this was produced by Mr. Quincy Jones. Okay, and it's very dynamic. It's very well done. It sounds really great. Yeah, it's popish. Yeah, it's all those things. But I mean, it really is one of those that you kind of go, really, boy, I didn't. I expected that to sound like it was coming out of a transistor radio kind of sound, but it's not. And it's surprising. And again, there were like at least three hits off of this album, but they really sound good. Quincy Jones, what can you say? The guy has talent. He can apply himself wherever he wants. Jazz, modern music, wherever he wants, soul, whatever he wants to do, he can apply his magic. And it always was a kind of just a weird thing to me that he did this album, but it shows when you sit and listen to it and think about it and think of the strings and the way he blended this. It really, you can see his formation through something like this. So this is a fairly easy album to find under $10. It might be the Black Mercury label instead of the original red one when it came out, but it's a great sounding album. So just one when I was going through and I said, that thing sounds a lot better than, what you would assume. This one wasn't in my grab bag, but frankly, it was right behind this group. And I said, well, it's right there for a reason. And you probably heard it, and it's not the cheapest one, but if you like this album, Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, There's a 45 RPM 2LP version, and you will hear things in rumors you never heard before, guaranteed. Now, be careful of one thing. You see there's a label here, right? You see this gold label, and it's going to say, peek here, okay, Preston Palace. You have to make sure that you get the ones that says Preston Palace. It's very bottom there. Let me show it to you again. At the bottom, it says Preston Palace in Germany. That's the one you want. If it doesn't say that, don't assume it is, because there are gold label ones of these that don't say Preston Palace. So I would tell you, yeah. So the 33 cut at Palace is great as well. You're right. Thank you, Alex. You're right. It is as well. This is as good as that is. Yeah, this is better. I mean, it just ekes out a little more. But I mean, I've talked before. They're just records like the Eagles' first album in the One Step. I heard stuff I never heard before, and I thought I had the album well memorized. I knew it, and I just heard stuff like, oh, there's a background. What's that background vocal? I never heard quite that strong of a voice. Or, oh, Bernie Leadon's a banjo. The thing is just plucking in your ears. I mean, it's right there. Totally different than what you get even with the OG. So again, these pressings, this one costs $45 or $50. I think the 33 is probably 35 maybe. But they really, if you like that album, yeah, you can pick those up for $10 or less, probably OGs or at least re-releases, and they sound decent. But if this is a go-to album for you, I would tell you you're going to hear things you never heard before, and that's a fact. And so you decide. Once in a while you do break the wallet in the sense that you want something like that, and that's fine. This was earlier. I was talking about Run Out Groove. So here's like Run Out Groove did the More of the Monkees and the first Monkees album. What they do is, you see this one's green. The online you can order these when they go in pre-order, and they do so many color, 2,000 or so color, and then they repress it on black vinyl, which is a little cheaper and available in the general market. So that's kind of how they work. Let's see. Alex says Chad is always taking subtle jabs at Palace because they polished their plates. Yeah, and he says that to his ears, Palace is his favorite plant right now. I don't hear what the criticism is all about. Yeah, that's one of those nuance kind of things. Um, um, Let me put it this way: theory and reality sometimes don't dwell in the same space. And if something is done well and correctly, it can defy logic, or it can defy what you might think, and so therefore, you go with what you end up hearing. Um, I would say polishing done in general is not a great idea. And the reason, there's really a twofold reason. One is taking something off the surface, and then there is the residual of what's there. So if that's not done properly, it can be a problem, especially if there's imperfections in the record, like let's say from a flatness standpoint. Think about it, right? So you're getting a little higher or lower polish cut on that because maybe some grooves or some top surfaces aren't quite even. So it's all in the mechanics and whether it lines up. Generally, it's probably not a recommended practice because most places probably can't pull it off, I think is really part of the issue. I would say that Palace has been very effective at what it has done with it. And, it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding. So I think I think it's one of those things that generally, yes, that probably is a cautionary tale related to production of records. But in the case of Palace, it seems that their controls have been to the degree where they can do that effectively, um, both in the product that they get to polish and its flatness, and in the methodology of the actual polishing, at least as it relates to the results. So that's just my take on it. Um, uh, it's another step in the process. It's another risk. It's another added cost. And so there's that aspect of it, as well. Do you gain enough from it for what you get? Uh, all I know is Palace is very highly recommended. I can't think of a bad press I've had from them, honestly. I know Speaker's Corner exclusively uses Palace and has a contract with them to use them for X amount of units a year. So they're sold on them, and they're admittedly paying more per record than they would with other plants, but are fine with doing that. So again, I guess it works for them, and it seems to have that. So you said Runout Groove. Um, Used to, I believe they still do for certain titles, is take pre-orders for a month. Then that's how many they press. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what if the quantities are that way or not. Now that you say that, there was a bell ring and it says there's something like that that goes on, because I know it's very, I say exclusive because they have a cutoff, and then like I got like a few months later I got the record. But I look for those because I try to get the early ones with the color if I could get it, just because they're usually worth a little more, and you're getting early use of a stamper, right? The Nautilus version of Rumors isn't too bad. Also did the master in the 80s, his version. Yeah. So RL's version was good. Now, Rumors has been a very contested, in Nautilus, was very contested by people. Some people just really thought it was poorly done. I think there was even an issue with the speed, whereby they said the speed wasn't accurate. Now, I don't know if that was across the board on all the Nautiluses or not. The one I had didn't sound that bad to me, but to be honest with you, once I've heard the Palace ones, it's kind of like all the rest go out the window at that point. So, um, yeah, RL's version was a bit more basic. Yeah, that is true when it came to Rumors. Whereas the Palace ones are really natural. They seem really well executed. It's partly the high end. Um, the the flatness potential, the flatness that it will bring into the groove. Roll the vinyl over a hair into the groove. I mean, there's several aspects of concern about it. Um, yeah, the higher frequencies being, they would definitely potentially have more of a potential impact. But we're talking about something that is so very, I mean, microns, just hardly anything really is coming off. But there are reasons, and I think they after they do the polish, I think there's some sort of cleaning that occurs after that to make sure that the debris or whatever from it is not. I think it's probably vacuumed within that process. So yeah, yeah, that is the fear. The polished plates could lose that. Alex, don't let Chad scare you. Palace is one of his competitors. Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But I think, let me put it this way: I think if Chad really believed that would help their product, he would consider doing it. Um, it's a cost benefit analysis. It's also, what is the risk versus reward of that? And I don't think he's sold on that. So To each their own. That's one of the great things about, being an entrepreneur and being industrious, is to do something just slightly differently and see where the masses, where it will take you and whether it will be accepted in the market. Um, Palace does it the right way. They are one of the best pressing plants outside the U.S. as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I do have all quality pressings and they sound great. Yeah, I agree. But the ones I haven't had a bad one at all. Um, you have the Dire Straits self-titled that Grumman mastered and pressed at Palace. That sounds great. Cut from the OG tape too. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tuna. I don't have a rec. I have an OG and I have a one, not a one step. Sorry, a MoFi 2x45 of that, but I think that did come through a DSD. Ray Charles, you sold me, was a must have for me too. The newer RSD pressing wasn't as good. It had a loud noise floor. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, loud noise floors. Boy, that's a pet peeve of mine. And that is one thing I will tell you: when you buy cheaper original records, that is one of the potential gotchas, is that there is a little more noise on any kind of non-audiophile vinyl from the 60s, 70s, 80s. That's just inherent. So if you can live with that, that's fine. But if a album has a lot of quiet passages, that can become very, very annoying. Um, Douglas says Chad tries to get the mastering engineer who came with on his interview to agree with on the polishing. I don't know if he does or he doesn't, but it's not widely used. We can say that, and so that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it's a different technique that um, some probably don't want to take the chance with. I mean, it's hard to make records uh, well, and it's hard to get it all right. And introducing another step, foreign step, no pun intended, into the process is another risk. And if the reward isn't really expected to be there, it's really behooves them to be very careful about introducing that. Now, for whatever reason, Palace has had experience with that, has had success with that, and that's part of their value add, their mystique, whatever you want to call it. So, viva la différence. That's what I would say. Those are the. I don't know what ECM uses, but the two I do know, as you said, in Germany, are Palace and Optimal, and it seems Optimal has improved fairly reasonably over the past years. I had some presses from them years ago, and they were marginal at best. And from what I understand, they have improved. I think I got a pressing about 2 or 3 months ago that was from there recently, and it was not problematic at all. So, or am I going to do a worst sounding vinyl? RCA Flexidiscs from back in the day. Okay, Jerry, you're talking about Dynaflex. Now, Dynaflex was a direct consequence of the oil crisis in the 70s. It was they made it down to about 120 gram record to preserve petroleum products and to use less making records. So you can blame the Arabs for Dynaflex, I guess, is what I would tell you. But yeah, I got pulled out, finally opened one of my MOVs that I bought, a Guess Who MOV, Greatest Hits, and it really sounds good. I mean, I was comparing it to the original Dynaflex. That's what made me think of it. And they did a great job on the MOV version of that. That's one of my favorite compilation or greatest hits albums. Why did Chad's plant manager leave? Well, I think opportunity to get another plant started, a plant, big name. I'm sure there was some do re mi involved, so to speak. They probably made it worth his while. Probably gave him a signing bonus and probably annual variable compensation along with a great salary to help them not make mistakes to get started. He probably was had done, I say, all he could do with the plant there in Kansas and had some other guys trained that could pick up where he left off, giving them an opportunity. So, probably a combination of things. And again, I'm surmising here. This isn't, I didn't ask Chad directly that question. That's, you're getting into, personnel issues. I don't think that Gary was unhappy, but I'm sure that, Gary wanted to take his skills and spread his wings. I know if I was in his position, that's definitely how I would have looked at it. And I'm sure that, as long as Chad knew he had a good team behind him, I think he's got a great relationship with Gary still. I don't, and even the guy running Vinyl Me Please. There's an actual interview that Chad did with him maybe 8 months ago. That's on the Acoustic Sounds webpage, YouTube channel if you want to look it up. Does he? I think the UK has plants. I believe they do, not a lot, but I do believe they do. But I don't. I honestly don't know them by name. Yeah. So Gary, is I'm hoping to get in touch with him once they're in a little more of beyond a startup to see visiting that plant, since I do have some interest and need to be in that area for work on occasion. So that would be a nice one to pick up and to add to. So if you have any questions about pressings, those were just, I didn't, like I said, I didn't get through the whole alphabet, but those were just ones that I looked at and said, yeah, for the money, these stood out a bit. And that's what I was just trying to give you guys an understanding of. Um, the thing is, there's a lot of bad pressings out there. I hate to put it that way, but just going through a bin, and even some of the better albums, there's bad pressings of them. That's why it's always good to do your research. Look for the plant. Look for the mastering lab, TML. If you see TML stamp -A-M, that's going to be well done. Doug Sachs involved in that. Usually Sterling Sound, you're usually going to have good results from things going through Sterling. Um, so I think it is relevant to say that um, that the pressing plant is very important, as well as who masters the records. They are contracted, subcontracted usually. Now, not always. Some guys are working for the place, like Sterling Sound. Ted Jensen's at Sterling, Ryan K. Smith's at Sterling. They work for Sterling, so they are one of the engineers that are one of the mastering people, I should say. They're a mastering engineer that will get assigned a certain job. Sometimes the customer wants a certain person. Sometimes they just say, "Hey, Sterling, master this for me." And so my guess is there's maybe a little bit of a higher rate if you're specific, and maybe if you just throw it in there and say whomever, it might not quite be as much. I mean, I'm not in the weeds there, but just making common sense. Then they go to Coherent with Kevin Gray, and they know what they're getting with that, of course. That's a one size fits all. Gary went to Vinyl Me Please in the Denver area, is where he went. So that is not, yeah, he did not go to the new Mobile Fidelity. It's coming online there. That's definitely not where he went. He went to Vinyl Me Please in Colorado. You didn't see any Steely Dan in my selections. Well, the Steely Dan's, are a little pricey. They still are a little pricey. So, I would tell you, if you're gonna, if you really like Steely Dan, you're probably gonna do something or wait on the new ones. Those aren't always easy to come by. So I that's one of the reasons I didn't get there. I didn't get to the letter S anyway, to be honest with you. There is a there is a great video done by the University of Vinyl by Tim, on Steely Dan specifically, where he goes through all of the albums and the best pressings and what to look for. So if you have a penchant to get Steely Dan OGs, I would advise you to go to the University of Vinyl, Tim's page, and look up his Steely Dan video. It's very long, but it's chaptered, so you can look by album which are the best, because those went through the whole ABC to MCA label and all of these kind of things. And if you have that, concern, you definitely would want to, I think, look at that. He does overkill. Yeah, it is. Yeah. But I mean, if you want to get in the weeds, you can get in the weeds. So, he got in the weeds. I was looking at it yesterday or day before, and yeah, I'm pulling out all my Can't Buy a Thrills, and I go, oh, I got that one. I got that. I'm just kind of making sure. Do I have the Kendon, on Katie Lie? Do I have, it was kind of interesting, gave me some exercise, but it's great that he does that. That's a passion for someone to do that. That's a lot of work. It's not easy. I know that. So, yeah, if you're going to ask me what my favorite records are, that's a whole different thing than I, pulling out a different list necessarily. But here I'm really looking for, especially some things maybe that you all don't know as much. Everybody knows about Rumors, for example, but who knows about Paul Carrack, for example, and One Good Reason. That's, to me, just an album that should have been a lot more visible. And it sold well on CD, but they didn't make a lot of vinyl of it. But it really is one of those great albums that you can test equipment on. So I think that's kind of what it is. Let me look here one second. I think I have somewhere else I want to show you. Oops. Yeah, I'm going through these and I've got all these sealed albums. It's like, see, Def Leppard sealed album. I don't even like Def Leppard. I don't even know. I'm not sure how I got it. I'm guessing that I lost a bet or something. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how I got it, but I thought I had one more. Guess not. Guess I pulled it out. I thought I had it here, but I pulled it out. Yep, I thought I had another one in there, but I actually pulled it out. So these are kind of where pressings today are all over the map in terms of quality. I think I saw some things with the new Alice in Chains that came out, which isn't my kind of music, but everybody says you're going into Walmarts and they're gone. And, a lot of different varieties of people's opinions about the quality of those, where they're coming from, whichever retailer or whatever is going on. So there is still some variation in what you get from what it seems like. Let's see here. Quick spec. I'm just showing up late to the party. The first for steel to print that counts. Mind most of Neil Young, Tom Petty, Wildflowers, Nirvana Unplugged. Okay. I'm not sure what Neil Young you're talking about when you say that. Tom Petty, Wildflowers is, I think, and they did. I don't know if you're talking about OGs here, but Paul Simon's Graceland is one that has always been sonically stated to be, a really well done album, sound wise. Nirvana Unplugged. Yeah, and I've seen that has some people say some. I guess there's different presses of that are better than others. I'm not a big Nirvana fan, so I probably wouldn't pick up on it. Yeah, the last comment, Jason, he says, I'm right. It's tough to find good sounding but budget priced albums nowadays. It's hard to find. I was watching an auction yesterday, and I was seeing stuff start at $20 that were probably $10 albums, if you could find them. But it just seems like the floor has definitely risen, on these things. And I noticed some of the sellers are, emphasizing, these are analog, these are the originals, these are, even if they're a repress, they're back from in the day. So that's that's where we're at in the market. There's no way around that. Yes, Fragile in Dreams, done analog by Kevin Gray. Sounds great. Are those are represses, I assume, at some the current release that's out there? Tugga, is that what you're talking about? Because I know that yeah, okay, great. But those are they're not the Steve Wilson remixes of it. They're the original mix, then mastered by Kevin. Is that correct? Yeah, I knew you meant drama. Drama. You meant to say drama, not dreams. Yeah, that's me. I'm talking. But yeah, drama and fragile. Fragiles. I've got the one step of fragile, and it's very dynamic. Very dynamic. So Jason said, yeah, the recent Alice in Chains reissue was hot, both in favored pressings and in quantity. Only Bobby Spirit and Noble Records did brief videos on the release. Okay. Bobby Spittin', he's funny. Yeah, he's entertaining. He has a unique style, and that's good. I think um, that's what makes the world go round. I don't really have uh, Alice in Chains doesn't mean much to me in terms of the music content, because they're from, I guess, the 90s or 2000s. So current reissue of Electric Warrior. Okay. Yeah, well, that's one that I know that came out on MoFi, and there's a lot of argument about whether that was really an improvement or not. So I don't have it. I'll leave that up to those that do. But yeah, and it's even like Rhino on their Rocktober stuff. They are contracting places like Coherent with Kevin Gray and other top notch uh, people to do the work, and their albums are 25-30 bucks. I mean, so I think there is some value to be found if you look around. And the truth is, those you're going to get a better, a quieter album, a lower noise floor than the OGs. There's no doubt about that. So almost why would you not? Waiting for a remaster, Yeah, okay. BTO not fragile. Okay. I got the collected version of that by MOV. I haven't opened it yet, but I got that. I'm curious to hear how that sounds. BTO. That was big when I was in high school, taking care of business and all that. So FedEx has your copy of Alice in Chains in the dirt. Ah, I see. That's probably what they're best at. Yeah, deliveries can be a little bit of a challenge. If you got any deliveries that are going to be coming out of Florida in the next few days, you might be having a little issue too, I might add. So get them shipped now, because that's going to be a mess for a few weeks as well. So yeah, BTO not fragile originals not is pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty decent sounding record on Mercury. I've got that. That's so. I would be interested. Is that scheduled to go, Jason? You said waiting for it. I wondered if it's been announced and we're just waiting on it and who's doing it. Most things that come out of Florida has issues. What about orange juice? No. Uh, so the vocals are blurred on that latest release. Yeah, yeah, that would be. I mean, yeah, if you're anticipating something, that's a shame. Yeah, you talk about good sounding vocals, and I know these are higher end records, but these two QRP pressings from Analog Productions, best male and best female vocals, and they have another one in the series called Best Christmas Songs. They are just outstanding vocal representations of what you can do in a recording. Um, some of the songs are ones that I don't really know very well or don't care about, but the dynamics of the sound and how great it is, you just kind of are in awe of the recording process. And in a way, you're in awe just the fact stuff comes out of a record this way, right? I mean, it's amazing. Not Fragile was the answer to Yes's album. Yes. So they should have came out with Not Close to the Edge or Far from the Edge or something like that, I guess, too. You think about it, right? Just to even things out, keep things going smooth. I One of my videos is with a guy named Tony Shore that I interviewed, and he's friends with John Anderson and Rick Wakeman from Yes, and told some stories on in the interview about them, which I thought were pretty interesting. So it's funny how you sometimes you meet people and you kind of find out they have some associations, some that were common to me, and some in that case that were uncommon to me. So third one is coming soon. Good. Or fourth one is coming soon. Okay. That's good. Yes. A good solid repress of Yes on quieter vinyl would always be good because they always have quiet sections. Now I just saw, Jerry, that Mike from the In Groove did a shootout on What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. I honestly haven't had time to watch it, but I'm kind of curious what he came up with because God knows What's Going On has been re-released enough times to where there ought to be several decent choices out there. My goodness, it's been out many times. I'm not much of a jazz guy, Tugga, at all. I have a few choice albums in jazz that I have, like this one, of course, Brubeck, Timeout, classic ones. But I'm not to just sit down and listen to jazz. I like the instrumentation of it and the accuracy of the work, and I respect that. But melodically and musically, it doesn't it bores me a bit. I guess I've got to say a bit, but when it's good and then when it's solid, and I really can pick up on the instrumentation and then the dynamics, I enjoy it. But it's kind of like I have to. I'm just not going to sit and listen to it. Generally, I'm going to have to really be in a certain mood, or I have to really want to listen to sonics, and then I'll pull those out more. Jerry, did you see Mike Ingroove video shoot? Okay, that's what I was asking. Yeah. His setup is overkill. He chose the one step. Okay. Thanks for letting me. I wondered if he would. I knew he had good things to say about it. I respect the fact that if he thought it was the best, he didn't let if it has DSD in it, influence his subjective listening outcome. I do respect that a lot because there's a lot of people who've once they know that, they kind of all of a sudden their opinion changes, and it sounded good yesterday, it should sound good today, kind of a thing. So that's good. I'm sorry it won only because the price of it's so high. So if you really want the best copy of it, be more interested in what came in number 2 and 3 on that actually. I had an OG of it, but it got worn, so it's not really a representative piece. I think I loaned it to somebody, and unfortunately, they gave it back to me. So one of the times you wish they didn't, but I've got plenty of albums I'm still looking for that I know I loaned to somebody, and I don't know where the hell they went. So I hate that, right? Yeah, I think you're right. I think Jason, the Kevin Gray cut that I have heard, that I have heard, and I think it's pretty great, especially 50th. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it is splitting hairs, and sometimes it's not. But you also have to make there are a couple of decisions when it comes to the 45s. One is the cost. One is the mechanics of it, and I don't just mean getting up and down. It's also the flow. If you're like me, a lot of albums well, and when you listen to them, you expect to hear 5 songs and then get up and change it. And when you have that break after song 2 or 3 where you got it, just something about the flow just doesn't quite feel right. Um, I've heard people argue that the 45s are out so that us older guys, any of us who might have prostate issues, can use the bathroom more frequently. I'm not sure that that's the reasoning for it, but anyway, so it's so I can go either way. It's like the Palace rumors, 33 and 45. I hear more in the 33. Is it worth it or not? I'm the 45. I mean, is it worth it or not? 33 is pretty darn big improvement over everything else as is. So MoFi removed Marvin Gaye one step from. Well, it's not available. I mean, they have a weird website in many ways. They if they if they took stuff that is not going to be available any longer and put it into an archive area where you could look them up and there's no ability to maybe you see the original price but you can't order. I mean, there's no buttons for order or any. It's just historical. That would make the most sense to me, but stuff just like you said, it just disappears. I really don't like that because I was trying to track some of these titles by what they were adding informationally, and it really got difficult to do actually. So Jerry said, to my point, though, there are many OG pressings that sound great because they were produced and mastered properly, and you don't have to pay one step prices for a decent sounding pressing. That's true. The difference, the one caveat in my mind is um, if is the condition of the vinyl and the noise floor of the vinyl. That's always so. In other words, it can be mastered very well, but it can also be noisier. But the other thing you do have probably is, at least at the time, the closest rendition to how that band wanted it to sound on vinyl at that time. That doesn't mean that if technology improves and it sounds better now, they don't like it more. It just means at that time that was in fact their sign off to whatever they thought the best sound was they could get for it. Or the sound that was adequate to get it released. I mean, some guys didn't have budgets to have it remastered X amount of times. That wasn't in the cards. Like Chad had Bernie remaster Can't Buy a cut the lacquer 7 times so that they could listen to different equalization levels or whatever changes that Bernie had done. So Wonderful Sounds series. KJ, are you talking about MoFi? Just so I know. Yeah, don't be like Jason. Don't go out and buy that Marvin Gaye one step that goes up in value. Don't do that. Two behind me. No, those are analog productions. Those are analog productions. Sorry. Now it doesn't have the all analog sticker on this. So I think I would have to look on the website, to be honest with you. I can't recall off the top of my head. Original master tapes were used. It does say that. But it doesn't have the all analog sticker on it. I would be, now this is a mix of different people, different, it might not on this one because I think it has a stereo of In My Room by the Beach Boys. So if the stereo of the Beach Boys on that one may have had a digital, not a mastering step, but a digital mix step in it potentially. I can't recall, but my point is, if any one track on that was not pure analog, they won't put the sticker on it. This one here has a different sticker, but it's not the AAA sticker. But yeah, I would have to honestly look on the website to see. That's where. Whoop. That's going to sting. No. To see what the exact. You don't want to stay up. To see exactly what Chad says about it, because I don't know what he says precisely about it. So, but they are analog productions. They are not MoFis. That's for sure. You said you think his comps were DSD. That would be interesting. Now you really got me wondering, because that would be a little bit out of their wheelhouse, their normal wheelhouse. So, but like you said, if that's what it is, I know they sound great, but if that's what it is, so let's see. Lacquer cut by Ryan K. Smith at Sterling, pressed at QRP, packaged in a gatefold deluxe. I'm reading it real quickly here. Great, well recorded demo quality songs. While some, like Aaron Neville's cover of John Hyatt's Feels Like Rain and the Beach Boys' In My Room, will be familiar, others probably won't be. Okay, that doesn't tell me anything. Digital. Don't see that. DSD, don't see that. So ironically, it doesn't say it isn't. So generally that means it is. I mean, Chad and DSD, I'm just trying to remember anything Chad has done I could have swore that's something we talked about when I was there. So that's it, not ringing in my head. That doesn't mean it isn't true, and it doesn't mean he didn't say it. It's just that I don't recall him ever saying it with me. If he said it somewhere else, it'd be great. I can't imagine. Here's the thing: I can't imagine that if they were non-analog or they were DSD, that it wouldn't say so on this page. Let me go look at the other one. Let me go look at the female one. That was the male one. Same bold statements in there. Nothing precisely saying anything about digital. Oh, let's see. Now, there's a statement by Michael Fremer on here from a review. No, yeah, and okay, there's a review here from Michael Fremer that says, "Humongous conflict of interest alert. I wrote this compilation's liner notes and created the 22 track song order. The sources were all high res files, some DSD, some PCM, depending upon what Chad Kassem was originally given in the digital domain, or in most cases, what Gus Kinkus produced in DSD using the original analog tapes." So that's what Michael Fremer wrote. So um, let's see if there's an update on this. Yeah, that came out of that actual review. So that's something Michael Fremer says there. So maybe there is some merit to that statement. Again, this was not a release of an album that was done by any one party. This was a compilation that was done. So very very different than he produced in this album and selected what they were. He said he selected these and from among titles he's licensed over the years for whole album reissues on SACD and AAA vinyl. Which okay, he's we know he's released SACDs, so that's not. So on the male one, it doesn't overtly say that like it does on the female one. So maybe further investigation is needed to get to a precise answer. So I know they sound good. I can tell you that. So I that much I can say. I wonder where. So Jason is saying, to be honest, I wonder where Krieg's at MoFi, his magical mastering skills are. He's done an amazing job on some of the one steps. I just think sometimes, the right, the right planets get aligned for these things to work out the way they do. That's the only way I can say it. We can't forget. Oh, Jerry's saying we can't forget back in the day, the pressing plants were pressing millions. Or oh yeah, so that was a natural hurdle out of the gate as some degree. We didn't know any better, and that's how it was. Yeah, they were. Yeah, quantity over quality, I think, is honestly what you had back then, no doubt about it. So, yeah, it's the liner notes, I guess. Yeah, you said Tugga. Yeah, it's the liner notes that give some indications there, which is a little interesting from the standpoint of them not overtly stating in bold, specifically what the situation is on those by track or by exception, I guess. So that's my only statement about it there. Jack White pleading with the major labels to open their own record plants. I saw that, Jason. Yeah, that Jack was pleading for that, but it's all about do re mi. It's an amazing cost, obviously, to build plants or to resurrect plants and to get the return on your investment for the capital. So basically, a lot of those things are um, they are amortized over 10 years. So you have to basically say you're going to recoup within 10 years, your investment on the plant and equipment type stuff at least. I mean, other stuff like technology that typically is a 3 to 5 year amortization. So i- they've got to get their they've got to flip the return. They also have to be confident that that technology or that method of selling or that method of pressing in this case is going to last that long to justify that. And that's where the rub comes in, having the right crystal ball. Yeah, KJ says he has the Christmas one, which I don't have, and he said it would be quite hard to put together from that kind of comp from a tape. Yeah, depending what's in the comp, you're right. That's true. Um, Depending when the releases were and what they are, that's going to limit it. And I mean, there's limits on what he can license and do as well. So um, comps can be comps can always be an issue. Like Steely Dan's Greatest Hits is a good comp, and it is pressed well if you can get an RL of it, for example. That's one where some of the songs that are on the Greatest Hits actually sound better than the OGs, actually. So Jason, you said you have bought some records directly from Fremer. Oh, okay. Did, didn't I guess? Yeah, I didn't know he sold records directly or whatever, but hopefully they weren't promos because you're not supposed to do that. But who am I? Part of the problem is the cost of digital distribution is low, if non-existent. Well, it's existent, but it's relatively it's relatively cheap and it's fast. So yeah, digital distribution is a mainstay. I mean, it just all the all the skids are greased, so to speak, for that to happen, cost wise and process wise. So you're right. That's it's a whole. You get into vinyl, it's a whole different game. I talked to a few artists and their management about releasing some stuff on vinyl, and to be honest, many of them literally say in so many words, it's not worth the hassle. Um, it's they know it's out there and it's a decent sized niche, but they get into all sorts of issues of release dates and backlogs and the back and forth of approvals of lacquer. I mean, it's a more complicated state, and some folks just don't want to mess with it. And okay, I I get that. I wish they would because I really would like to hear their stuff on vinyl, but I get it. And some of them said that when they did release it years ago, it was a hassle, and that was before all the backlogs and all the other issues. So I guess it's kind of like once burned, twice shy. I'm not sure if you want the major record labels pressing again, but the money isn't probably up to their greed level right now. Yeah, companies are in an outsourcing kind of mode. They have been for a long time, have someone else do it. Um, where's your core competence? That core competence literally died off over the decades since vinyl went away. And I mean, you can tell right now, you got people who are needing to train others because they're getting up in their 70s. And, that's the case. You look at guys who know how to service pressing machines, and they're older folks generally. They're trying to teach younger folks, and they are. But again, it's a bit of a niche, and so that's what's going to happen too. Is some of these guys in that industry are going to be more sought after. There's going to be competition to get those people. Like a Gary Salstrom, and bring them into an organization because of the experience they have, because they can't buy that experience. They can't say, well, some kid will just be coming out of college any day now and he can just do it. It's not like that. It's totally different than that, right? George Strait's latest is on vinyl. Well, I'll have to tell my wife. She went to his farewell concert because he was never gonna perform after that. Right. Okay. Jazz Bum talked about this. Digital is cheaper than pressing, releasing, and vinyl. Oh yeah, it's not even close in from any perspective of the process. It's digital is leaner and meaner, and we can argue whether it's better, but it's certainly from a throughput standpoint and from a flexibility standpoint, it's way up there. Dealing with tape is a nightmare. They will send that to Mexico, Jerry says too. Yeah, I'm assuming they do have some pressing plants down there because they do have releases that come out of Mexico. But I think Ron. Oh, there's Ron. Hey, Ron. I think we need more UHQRs for $150 a record. That's getting hi-fi on the cheap. Okay, is tongue in cheek there, Ron? I'm thinking maybe. Hopefully, they reissue the Steely Dan records on a regular acoustic sounds product for 30. No, that's not going to happen. It'll probably come out once the UHQRs are sold out. It'll come out on the 2x45, the current $60. I don't think by the time they do it, it'll be 60. But I think that it will come out if they sell out all the UHQRs. But I can tell you, the Universal owns the rights to do 33 RPM. So Analog Productions is not going to be doing any 33 RPMs against that current contract. I don't think at all. Did you hear about new craft? Yes, I did. I did hear about that. I saw it last night when it was leaked, and this morning I got an email on it. Yeah, it would have been timing wise the Christmas one. I was thinking they would have. So it's all about the margins, man. All about the profit. That's right, Michael. Money talks and the rest walks. Right. That's just that is it. I'd like a Steely Dan a la Dire Straits. Box. Okay, good. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think some of us really did think or hope that we were going to get a box of that. And I don't know how well that one Dire Straits box was done. I've read mixed reviews or mixed perspectives of how good that was because I almost bought one and then I held back. Funny thing is, Kraft is selling the 1-steps and 45s at the same time. Yep. Yeah, and their 1-steps, what, 105, 115 or something like that, I think, the 33, if I remember. A Lawrence Welk box set. Okay, there we go. Get the bubbles. Cue the bubbles. Yeah, Jason was talking about the regular Steely Dan's coming out. Yeah, we'll see. They're coming out of the plant in Canada, which is maybe a rough start, but we'll see what they're like. I'm definitely going to get one to do a comparison with. Yeah, Ron, there you go. That's what I think they're going to be doing. Of course, by the time they do it, which will be 2024, I think that $60 threshold will probably be 75 or so. I'm just estimating for inflation and whatever, but hopefully it's not. But I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, Tug, are you talking about the Kraft, I guess, huh? Where they made them concurrently available. Okay, that's fine. Okay. All right, Jerry, thanks for joining me. I'm about ready to break off as well. I've got to, is opening a monster of a plant in Nashville. Yeah, I have a friend in Nashville and I am looking into that as we speak. I did hear that. Yes, I heard that yesterday. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, definitely gonna see. I've got some contacts in the Nashville area, so I'm gonna be trying to hunt that one down as well. That one and the Vinyl Me Please. So yeah, there's activity. That's nice. I mean, it is nice to see. Hopefully, these lead times can get knocked down to under 6 months, and we can get releases that are not delayed and or they are coinciding between all the release dates of the hard product and the digital of it, because that's where I think the gap is right now. So, well, anyway, folks, about time to go. Hour and 40. I thank you. I will be looking for some other titles that are in the beginning, like letter after H, because that's where I think I left off, and I'll do another live stream on that. Since subscribers were mainly the ones that were answering the poll, I thought I'd give you guys the insight to this, and then let this post up there with the information for anybody else who might want to see it. But Universe, let's see what Ron has to say. That makes record in Canada. Those are horrible sounding presses. They're always digital. Okay, yeah. I mean, the big guys are gonna they're looking for the leanest and meanest way to get something done. There's just no doubt about that. You've really got to get into people who have the quality consciousness to get into this other realm of approach. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And if you just want it on vinyl, okay, fine. But that's the compromise, I guess. I don't see Fagan not cashing that check. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if down the road anything else of Fagan's comes out on Analog Productions, won't it? Because there certainly is a relationship there, that's for sure. Okay, Dire Straits package, Steve thanks, is minimal packaging. It's about 20 a piece. Sounds real good for the money. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I saw a mix. See, the thing is, Dire Straits has some great, some of their stuff's really well recorded OG in the first place. So you always get people, making that comparison. Now I got the Abbey Road Half Speed Master Credence set last week, and I haven't cracked it open yet, but I'll be interested to hear how that sounds. And by the way, if you didn't see the video on the audio files with Steve Westman, he did an interview with Miles Shawwell from England, and who is the guy who did the half speed for Revolver and some of the other Beatles records. Really an interesting interview, a lot of interesting tidbits. If you didn't see it, you should. I think it's a really enjoyable 45 or 50 minutes video. So yeah, it sounds great. Okay, gang, thanks for joining. As always, I appreciate. Take care of yourself, be well, be safe. See you later from the sound of Safe and Sound, Texas. Bye-bye.